What's happening for us when we know trust is broken with this particular person?
When we actually experience that break in trust, and sometimes it can be instantaneous, sometimes it's a thought process that leads to a sense of broken trust. Let's take a look at the instantaneous one, then we go back to the amygdala and all the conversations we had about what goes on in the amygdala triggers off a whole variety of things, cortisol, and cortisol enhances the amygdala and therefore begins a sense of looking for confirming behavior. And we will go down that track of ruminating over what has happened and reinterpreting some of the things that have happened in the past in light of that change, whether we're correctly reinterpreting them or not. I'm not going down that track. We tend to go back and go, oh, that's why he or she said this 3 weeks ago. May have nothing to do with it. So we tend to ruminate over those type of things. Again, I think that we talked about the fact that when we feel a threat like that, it triggers off the same circuitry as the actual circuitry that we experience when we have pain. And so when we say the lack of trust or the loss of trust hurts, it doesn't physically hurt, but it's stimulating the same brain circuitry as an actual pain.
Wow.
That causes a couple of things to happen. One is because the amygdala is now flaring up, that's in the limbic system. The limbic system is responsible for emotional content. So now we'll become emotional. And when an event occurs, it is laid down in our memory exactly the same time as the memory of the event itself. So we hook that emotion with the event. And the hippocampus actually takes care of that for us. That's why emotional events are easy to recall. Very difficult to recall the physical pain, but the emotional pain is relatively easy.
Wow.
So those are all going on in a split second.
I think it's interesting because it also leads to betrayal can sometimes linger on for a pretty long period of time. And I think based on what you're just describing is that trust isn't a switch necessarily. Like we talked about with the trust equation, it's not like it just maybe to some degree it could go instantly to zero depending on, how things are happening. But it's oftentimes it's a system. There's different things. And we also, I think one of the other things is our definition of what could break my trust versus what could break your trust could be somewhat different because we have different value systems, different ethics, whatever it might be.